Well, there are concerns of queues for the purchase of fuel, and this has continued to emerge at various filling stations across the country. When our news crew visited some petrol stations across the country, the queues continue to mount, and some operators who spoke off camera could not explain the cause of the scarcity. An attendant at a filling station in Bariga, Lagos, told our crew that the station has not sold petrol for the past 3 days, as tanks were dry and queues mounted because they could not load products from the depot after exhausting the ones they had in their reserve. Well, some of the petrol stations have increased their pump price from 87 naira per litre to 100 naira and above in other cases. This move has been attributed to the high cost of the product at the NNPC depot. The scarcity has begun to inflict pain on motorists, they say, and we will also be looking at how that has affected so many people across the state. Well, we're now being joined by an energy expert, Mr. Olabode Showme, in our Studio B. I want to thank you, sir, for joining us at this time. What do you make of this situation that we're having? Why is there a scarcity?
I think primarily it's imperfections in the system. To the best of my understanding, the marketers and the supply chain system that goes through the downstream industry have certain complaints in terms of the margins since the downward review of the fuel price. And of course, there are negotiations and interactions within the system. But the queues is a fallout of imperfections within the system. It has nothing to do with fuel prices. In point of fact, the fuel prices reduction should mean that there should be excess fuel available in the system, which is available actually.
We also know about the government's efforts in the past trying to have their own mega stations. They call it the NNPC mega stations, who are designated by the government to sell at the approved price of 87 naira per litre, brought down from 97 naira per litre just before, just a couple of weeks back. Is this going to be any different from what we're seeing today?
I think we need to understand the capacity of government vis-a-vis the private sector. In terms of delivery of services, in the things that really matter to people, the private sector has the capacity to actually deliver the service. Yes, there are NNPC mega stations, but they are just a drop in the ocean. So effectively, yes, you probably get fuel at the NNPC stations, but that cannot cure everybody. So at the end of the day, the system must work. It's a system problem. The system needs to work, the system needs to engage itself, and the system needs to produce.
Well, we have information, though, that marketers are saying that they have not been paid by the finance minister. Of course, you've been following up on that story as well. They've not been paid by the finance minister, and as such, they will not load petroleum products and move them to the filling stations for purchase. You remember also that this happened just before we had a scarcity in Abuja a couple of days back. Is this a dovetailing effect that we're looking at?
Well, if they have not been paid by the minister, that's a logistics problem. It has nothing to do with nothing to do with fuel crisis. But that's not necessarily to say that that could be the fact. You know, many times we need to understand our people and our system where we work in. People throw up all kinds of highfalutin stories, which are not verifiable or which have not been verified as reasons for things that they do. The fact remains is that whatever be the case, I do not think that whatever grounds any part of the system has, subjecting the nation to hardship will be the solution to their problems. Yes, it can get attention, yet it can divert attention, but it does not necessarily solve the problems. So I do not think that somebody not being fully paid at the moment will be enough reason for fuel prices in Nigeria.
Who is then to blame for this problem that we're facing?
You know, that's part of our challenge. You know, there's this idea that somebody must be at fault. Yes, of course, when there are imperfections, there has to be fault lines. There will be a fault to the government, there will be a fault to the system. And when I mean the system, the current supply chain system that exists in the downstream sector. There's also a fault to the people who actually have fuel and are not making it available for whatever reason that they say it is. Because at the end of the day, fuel availability is a national security issue. And there comes a time, I mean, there will come a time when there will be public outrage and outcry that people who do these things will be subject to persecution in the same kind of issues like treason. And it is when those things are done that people will understand that there is a limit to which people can subject people to hardship just simply because they want attention.
Interesting. Just before we let you go, Mr. Olabode, is there a link that we see between international oil crude prices as they have dwindled in the past, rallied as a matter of fact in the past couple of weeks, 3 weeks to be precise? Is there a relationship between that and major suppliers like Nigeria?
I think, on the contrary, the reduction in prices is not the same thing as reduction in availability of crude. It actually means that crude is available for less, which means that the people who are to be affected are the people whose economy depend on crude. I'm talking about Venezuela, I'm talking about Russia and all that. In Russia, their currency fell by 70% over this period. I mean, we are still just talking some figures. And 40% in one day. It's so bad now that in Russia, they want to only lend money in dollars. In Venezuela, they are having essential commodity crisis. In Angola, they also have the same issues. But I don't think our situation is that bad. The key thing and the primary important thing here is the fact that we have a downstream issue. The downstream issue needs to be resolved. And at the end of the day, the nation needs to move forward.
I want to thank you so much indeed, Mr. Olabode Showome. It's an energy expert speaking to us here on Newstrack on Channels Television.